On the 27th of January 1958, in Rayong province of Thailand, a man was arrested while he was about to dispose a body of a young boy by burning him. His confession, as well as what happened to his body, will forever impact the collective consciousness of Thailand. The man's name was Huang Lihui, though he was known as Si Ui. He was a 31-year-old Chinese man who lived and worked in Thailand as a manual laborer, moving from place to place. He was originally from Shantou province of China, and he escaped to Thailand about 8 years prior to his arrest. The crime scene where he was caught was very strange. The body was partially covered in hay, as the perpetrator was about to burn it. The floor was covered with blood, and the most perplexing detail was that near the body, there were bowls with internal organs in it. After a brief scuffle with the victim's father, Si Ui was arrested and was promptly brought to the interrogation room. According to the police records, he confessed to the murder of Sombun, the young boy whose body was found earlier alongside him, but he also confessed to other murders and murder attempt of young kids across 3 provinces for the total of 7 cases. Out of the 7 cases, the earliest victim, a young girl from Prachuap Khiri Khan, was attacked on the 8th of April 1954. Her throat was slit, but she survived the attack. The 6 remaining victims, however, would not be so lucky. His crime allegedly spread between Bangkok, Prachuap Khiri Khan, Nakhon Prathom, and Rayong provinces, starting 4 years prior to his arrest. As mentioned earlier, he was a laborer and was constantly moving around the country wherever there was a job. Now, one grueling detail that most of his supposed victims share were the body were being mutilated and the victim's internal organs would be missing. One of the victims, a girl from Chinese family, was also assaulted as well. This sparked a mass hysteria among the masses as they learned that there was a serial killer and a cannibal walking among them. The story started to spread about Si Ui's past, some claiming that he ate those kids' organs because he believed that it would improve his health as well as giving him strength. Or during his time as a soldier, he was forced to eat his own comrades to stay alive. Later in March of that year, Si Ui would stand in front of the judge and the punishment would be handed to him. Despite him allegedly confessed to the multiple murders, he was prosecuted for only the murder of Sombun, the boy whose body was found alongside him. Due to his confession, the sentence was decided to be a lifetime imprisonment. However, this sentence would later be overturned and he was to be executed by a firing squad. Si Ui was executed on the 16th of September 1958, but this is not the end of the story. After the execution, his body was given to the Faculty of Forensic Science of Siriraj Medical College, where his body would be embalmed and then displayed inside of the glass case in the university's museum with the plaque that read Si Ui, cannibal. His body would remain there for over 60 years. This story shocks the nation to its core. Si Ui became some sort of the boogeyman where parents would tell the story to kids to scare them into behaving. I remember my mom told me that when she was a kid, her grandmother would tell her that if you don't come home before it's late, Si Ui would come out and eat your liver. The story would go on and inspire many fictions based on the incident as well, such as in 1984, a television drama was aired called Si Ui, as well as a full-length movie also called Si Ui in the year 2004, which also got distributed to some other country as well with a tagline that said cannibal or evil cannibal. Even in Muay Thai, there is a boxer who used Si Ui as his stage name. So that's that, right? He was an insane person who murdered and ate children, then got executed and mummified. Well, some people say that that might not be the whole truth. Before we begin, let me get one thing clear. From what I can find, it is most likely that he killed at least one child, Sombun, whose body was found with him. But do you remember the bowl with organs in it that I mentioned earlier? Well, it was never confirmed that it wasn't organs belongs to human. And keep in mind as well that this story took place back in the 50s. The media and tabloids can publish a story without having to validate the legitimacy. For example, the first school that specialized in journalism, the School of Communication Art of Chulalongkorn University, wouldn't open its door until 1974. So some stories that we heard here are probably best to take it with a grain of salt. After a few more diggings, I found some sources claiming that he did not confess to other murders, but later in police custody, he turned around and started admitting to all of it. The police claim that they handled the case with care and strictly followed the procedure, but is it plausible that he was persuaded into confessing a crime that he might not committed? This unfortunately had happened and still happens all the time, not just here in Thailand, but also in another part of the world as well. And I believe that in the 3 records of his confession, he denied ever actually eating any of the victim's organs. Not to mention that his confession usually inconsistent with the actual case details, or sometimes he would even contradict it himself. So where does that leave us? I think there are 2 points that we can get out of the story. The first point is he seems to definitely committed a horrible crime, but what exactly it was that he did was uncertain due to how the police and the media handled the situation at the time. He might be a horrible person, but he might not be as deranged as we would come to know him. And 2, regardless of his crime, recently people have started to discussion about the embalming of his body and whether is it a violation of human rights or not. This all accumulated in the year 2009, where the signs only mentioned his name and no longer branded him as a cannibal. And later in 2020, when people were petitioning on change.org to remove him from the museum and finally give him a proper funeral. His body was finally cremated on the 23rd of July 2020, over 60 years after his death. And there you have it, the story of Si Uy. Was he really a cannibal? Did he kill all of those children? I don't know. What do you think?